Hello friends, this is Victor here. Welcome back to the Intelligent Investor channel. In this video, I'm going to analyze Micron stock to see if it's a great company for long-term investing. Several subscribers asked me to analyze Micron stock because Micron is one of the major semiconductor companies that's benefiting a lot from AI. Just to give you more context, Micron stock has dropped a lot over the past few months and it has not fully recovered yet. Many investors want to know whether Micron stock is still undervalued now or if it's better to just wait for a larger dip. Right before I started making this video, Micron reported much higher revenues and higher revenue guidance than expected. Micron is expected to have much higher revenues and profits in fiscal 2025 because of the current AI boom. Micron is one of the three major DRAM manufacturers that supply high bandwidth memory, HBM, which is essential for the most advanced AI accelerators from NVDA, AMD, Intel, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. In terms of performance, Micron did outperform the S&P 500 by a large margin over the past 5 years, mostly because of the current AI boom. However, Micron is arguably the most cyclical company in the semiconductor market. Micron always goes through many boom and bust cycles, depending on the demand and supply of DRAM memory and NAND SSDs that are used in smartphones, high-performance PCs, CPUs, GPUs, electric vehicles, and now AI accelerators. I think it's very important to understand this. Typically, whenever there's a huge demand for DRAM memory and NAND SSD such as during the pandemic, Micron's business will grow by a lot. However, whenever there's an oversupply of DRAM memory and NAND SSD such as after the pandemic, Micron's business will decrease significantly. Now, we're still at the beginning of the current AI boom. Many investors want to know whether Micron will continue to grow and recover over the next 2 to 3 years. I'm going to answer this question by talking about these topics in this video. First, I will give you a quick stock portfolio update. Then I will talk about Micron's biggest risks to consider, Micron's long-term growth prospects, Micron stock valuation, and whether I will buy Micron stock. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification button. I will continue to make many excellent stock analysis and investing videos a week that will help you become a great investor. Each video usually takes me more than 30 hours to make, so if you like this channel and want to support it, check out my Patreon blog in the video description. Our goal is to help all our members become multi-millionaires through investing. Once you become a premium member, you can follow all the stocks I'm investing in for the long term, follow my personal stock portfolios, and download the latest intrinsic valuation models for all the stocks I'm analyzing, so you will know when a stock becomes undervalued, fairly valued, or overvalued now. Also, you will have access to all my latest stock ratings for all the stocks I'm analyzing. The link is in the video description. Take a look, let's start. Before talking about Micron, I want to give you a quick stock portfolio update. This is to show you my investing strategies over time. This is one of my stock portfolios. It's separated into 3 different accounts. All of the accounts are performing very well because I have invested in many outstanding companies, especially the top semiconductor companies and the mega cap tech companies that are the market leaders in their industries. For example, in the first account, I have invested in MasterCard, Microsoft, Visa, TSMC, Amazon, Google, Meta, and ASML. They are all near monopolies in their industries. Most of them are benefiting a lot from the current AI revolution. I started investing in them when they were much more undervalued before. I expect that they will continue to grow exponentially over time. This is the second account. This is the same story as the first account. I have invested in Apple, Google, TSMC, Visa, MasterCard, NVDA, and Amazon. All of them are the best in their industries. Earlier this year, I sold some Apple shares and other stocks. Then I used the gains and bought back many more NVIDIA shares because I knew NVIDIA was still undervalued during that time. In hindsight, this has been one of the best decisions this year. I made the mistake of selling NVIDIA too early for a quick profit before. It's a good thing that I bought back many more NVIDIA shares earlier this year. This is my prediction. I expect NVIDIA to continue to be the market leader in AI and high-performance AI systems. I also expect that NVIDIA will become the most valuable company in the world and grow much more over time. This is the third account. This account is much newer than the 2 other accounts, so it will take longer for these companies to become multi-bagger stocks. I have invested in TSMC, NVIDIA, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, ServiceNow, Google, AMD, Visa, Broadcom, Synopsys, Intuit Inc., Adobe, and ASML. All of them are outstanding businesses. All of them are the market leaders in their industries. Most of them are near monopolies. ASML did drop a lot recently because ASML reported a much lower revenue guidance than expected for next year. There are several short-term headwinds affecting ASML right now. First, the overall semiconductor market outside of AI is taking longer than expected to recover. For example, the PC and smartphone markets are still slowly recovering, but the recovery is slower than expected. Second, ASML is facing more export restrictions from the Netherlands. ASML is restricted from selling even the high-end immersion DUV lithography machines to China. So this means ASML's revenue from China will be much lower going forward. Third, some of the upcoming semiconductor fabs will be delayed to 2026 or later. This means ASML's major customers will delay buying DUV and EUV lithography systems from ASML. And fourth, ASML's major customers such as Intel and Samsung are likely decreasing their capex or delaying their investments in more EUV lithography machines because their new fabs are delayed or they still have not fully utilized their existing EUV lithography systems yet. So all these short-term headwinds will likely impact ASML's revenue growth in 2025 or even 2026. This is my prediction. I'm not worried about these short-term headwinds at all because I know that the overall semiconductor market outside of AI will eventually recover. This means ASML's largest customers such as TSMC, Samsung, Intel, SK hynix, and Micron will eventually need to upgrade and buy more advanced DUV and EUV lithography systems from ASML once they see that the overall semiconductor market outside of AI is recovering, and once these new fabs go online in the US, Asia, and Europe. Let's go back to Micron. I want to talk about Micron's biggest risk to consider. This is the first biggest risk. Micron's business is by nature very cyclical. The company always goes through many boom and bust cycles, depending on the market demand and supply of DRAM memory chips and NAND SSDs that are used in smartphones, PCs, CPUs, GPUs, electric vehicles, IoT devices, AI accelerators, traditional data centers, and now AI data centers. For example, you can see that Micron's revenue growth, operating income, earnings per share, and free cash flow have been very cyclical over the past 10 years. Also, according to these past quarterly financials, Micron always had very large operating losses, negative operating margins, and negative free cash flows whenever there was a huge correction in the semiconductor market or whenever there was an oversupply of DRAM memory chips and NAND SSDs in the market and not enough demand for them. Micron will always go through this boom and bust cycle because it is in the DRAM memory and NAND SSD manufacturing business. Here is another thing we should consider. Micron's DRAM memory and NAND storage business is very capital intensive. Micron does not outsource memory chip making to other companies. Instead, Micron owns its fabs and manufactures its own DRAM memory and SSD products. It's very important to understand this because this means Micron will always have very high fixed costs and high capex each year, even when Micron's revenue is down a lot. Here's an example. Even when there's a large correction in the semiconductor market or whenever there's an oversupply of DRAM memory chips and NAND SSDs, Micron still needs to invest a very large percentage of its revenues in fabs and R&D every year to stay competitive. This is why Micron's gross margin, operating margin, and free cash flow margin can become negative and decrease significantly whenever there's a large downturn in the semiconductor market. The positive side is that Micron has a strong balance sheet. For example, according to the latest financials, Micron had around $9.19 billion in cash and short-term investments. In comparison, Micron had around $14 billion in total debt and long-term lease liabilities. Most of this is long-term debt. Only $431 million is in short-term debt. Micron can pay off this long-term debt gradually using its free cash flow each year. Of course, when it comes to investing, we have to be forward-looking instead of backward-looking. Looking forward, Micron's total revenue and EPS are expected to grow much more throughout 2025 and 2026, mainly because of the current AI boom. The largest cloud providers are building their AI data centers around the world. They are also making their own AI accelerators and buying AI accelerators from NVDA and AMD. All these high-performance AI systems will need a lot more HBM memory and data center SSDs going forward. Also, the PC and smartphone markets are expected to recover much more in 2025 and 2026. I will talk more about these two secular trends later on in this video. The second biggest risk is intense competition in the memory chip market. Micron competes in these two major technology platforms, DRAM memory and NAND storage. Typically, DRAM memory contributes about 70% of Micron's total revenue, and NAND storage contributes about 29% of Micron's total revenue each year. But here is the issue. Both of these markets are extremely competitive. Typically, most of these DRAM memory and NAND storage products are like commodities. Micron's two biggest competitors, Samsung and SK hynix, offer very similar DRAM memory and NAND SSD products with very similar performance and pricing. Even if Micron can create a more advanced HBM memory, such as the upcoming HBM3E 12 high memory that's ahead of SK hynix and Samsung's HBMs, SK hynix and Samsung can often catch up to Micron within a year or a few months. Also, whenever there's too much chip inventory in the market, Micron often has to compete on pricing to maintain its market share in the DRAM and NAND markets. At the time of making this video, there's a huge shortage of HBM memory, which is needed for the most advanced AI accelerators from NVDA, AMD, Intel, and hyperscale cloud providers. This means Micron can sell as much HBM memory as it can produce to NVIDIA, AMD, and the hyperscale cloud providers. Right now, SK hynix and Micron are able to mass produce the most advanced HBM3E memory with good yields. Samsung is having issues with mass producing HBM3E memory and is working with NVIDIA to resolve the issues. However, once these yield issues are resolved, Samsung will eventually become the third major supplier of HBM memory to NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, and hyperscale cloud providers. Here's the important part. Over the longer term, Micron does not have a lasting economic moat because the three largest memory makers, Samsung, SK hynix, and Micron, tend to make DRAM and NAND products that are very similar to each other in both performance and pricing. Based on what I know, even if Micron's next-gen HBM3E 12 high memory or the HBM4 memory is ahead of SK hynix and Samsung, SK hynix and Samsung can often catch up to Micron within a few months or a year. Let me show you this market share here. The DRAM market is dominated by three major players, Samsung, SK hynix, and Micron. This has been the trend for many years already. The NAND flash market is much more fragmented. It's dominated by Samsung and SK hynix, followed by Kioxia, Micron, and WDC. This is another risk we should consider. This risk affects all the major semiconductor companies, including Micron. Right now, there's a chip war between the US and China. This will continue for many years. Both countries are competing to become the dominant leader in AI and advanced chip manufacturing. China has already banned Chinese companies that provide critical information infrastructure from buying Micron products because of national security concerns. Similarly, the US regulators are considering banning Micron from selling HBM memory to Chinese customers. Based on what I know, Micron has already voluntarily stopped selling HBM products to China since May 2023. Of course, all these export restrictions will continue to affect Micron's business in China going forward. Just to give you an example, at the time of making this video, China contributes about 12% of Micron's total revenue. I believe this will likely decrease over time because the US will likely impose more chip export restrictions, or China will likely impose more restrictions on US companies going forward. Let's talk about Micron's long-term growth prospects. This is the bull case. Over the next 2 to 3 years, I believe there are two major secular trends that will benefit Micron a lot. First, the large growth of AI data centers around the world will be the biggest growth driver for Micron. The large growth of AI data centers will benefit Micron's compute, networking, and storage businesses the most because these AI data centers will need a lot more AI accelerators, AI memory chips, specifically a lot of HBM memory, and a lot of data center SSDs. Second, outside of the AI data center market, the upcoming AI PCs and AI smartphones will need a lot more energy efficient and high capacity memory chips to run AI applications. For example, The upcoming AI smartphones will likely need a minimum of 12GB of DRAM to run AI applications. This means Micron's mobile business should also recover more over the next several years. Micron recently gave this guidance. Micron expects that its revenue will reach around 8.7 billion plus or minus 200 million in the upcoming quarter. In comparison, Micron's revenue was 4.73 billion in fiscal Q1 2024. This means Micron's revenue for the next quarter should increase by around 84% year over year. More importantly, Micron's management said this. It indicates that Micron will have very high revenue growth and much higher profits in fiscal 2025, mainly because of the large demand for AI applications and AI memory chips. We look forward to delivering a substantial revenue record with significantly improved profitability in fiscal 2025, beginning with our guidance for record quarterly revenue in fiscal Q1. Micron is ramping production of the industry's most advanced technology nodes in both DRAM and NAND. This is from TSMC's most recent earnings call. TSMC's management said this. It explains that the AI demand is very real. More importantly, the current AI revolution will likely last for many years. TSMC CEO said this.
Let me answer your question. Simply, whether this AI demand is real or not, okay? And my judgment is real. We have talked to our customer all the time, including our hyperscaler customers who are building their own chips. And almost every AI innovator is working with TSMC. And so we probably get the deepest and widest look of anyone in this industry. And why I say it's real, because we have our real experience. We have using the AI and machine learning in our fab and R&D operations. By using AI, we are able to create more value by driving greater productivity, efficiency, speed, qualities. And think about it. Let me use 1% productivity gain. That was almost equal to about 1 billion to TSMC. And this is a tangible ROI benefit. And I believe we cannot be the only one company that have benefited from this AI application. So I believe a lot of companies right now are using AI and for their own improving productivity, efficiency, and everything. So I think it's real. Did I answer your question? Goku?
Yeah, that's clear. Could you also talk a little bit about how this feeds into your view of the current semiconductor cycle also, CC?
So Goku, the second part is, we believe the AI demand is real, but how do we view the overall semiconductor demand and cycle? I think Goku, you were saying, do we think it's reached peak out already?
Oh, okay. I forgot to answer this one. The demand is real, and I believe it's just the beginning of this demand. All right. As one of my key customers said, the demand right now is insane. That's it's just a beginning. It's from a scientific to be engineering. Okay, and it will continue for many years.
I mentioned this earlier. At the time making this video, there's a huge shortage of HBM memory that is essential for AI accelerators from NVDA, AMD, Intel, and hyperscale cloud providers that are making their own AI chips. SK hynix and Micron are making the most advanced HBM3E memory. Samsung is trying to catch up to SK hynix and Micron in mass producing HBM3E memory. In fact, Micron's HBM supply is already sold out for 2024 and 2025. Micron is planning to increase its capex in 2025 to meet higher HBM demand over the next 2 to 3 years. Micron will start mass producing the next-gen HBM3E 12-high memory in early 2025. NVIDIA will use Micron's next-gen HBM3E 12-high memory in the upcoming Blackwell Ultra platform in 2025. This is NVIDIA's AI GPU roadmap from 2025 all the way to 2027. I think this is a very good indicator that shows the large demand for Micron's HBM memory will likely last until at least 2026. NVIDIA's upcoming Blackwell in 2025 will use a lot of HBM3E memory from SK hynix and Micron. Of course, Samsung will eventually be the third HBM supplier for NVIDIA because there's a huge shortage of HBM memory now. From 2026 to 2027, NVIDIA's Rubin platform will use the next-gen HBM4 memory. Again, NVIDIA will likely buy a lot of HBM4 memory from SK hynix, Micron, and Samsung because they are the only DRAM memory makers that can supply the leading-edge HBM memory. This is Micron's product roadmap. You can see that it matches NVIDIA's AI GPU roadmap. For example, Micron will begin mass production of next-gen HBM3E 12-high memory in 2025. Micron's HBM3E 12-high memory is mostly for NVIDIA's Blackwell platform and other competing AI GPUs. After that, Micron is planning to mass produce the even more advanced HBM4 memory throughout 2026 and 2027. Micron's HBM4 memory is mostly for NVIDIA's Rubin platform and other competing AI GPUs. Of course, all these leading-edge HBM memory and GDDR memory will likely have higher pricing than before, which should help improve Micron's gross margin. Here's the important part you should know. Micron's management said this: memory is essential to extend the frontier of AI capability. Multiple vectors will drive AI memory demand over the coming years. Growing model sizes and input token requirements, multimodality, multi-agent solutions, continuous training, and the proliferation of inference workloads from cloud to the edge. Micron expects that the HBM total addressable market, or TAM, will grow from approximately $4 billion in 2023 to over $25 billion in 2025. Let me show you the most important parts of Micron's recent earnings call. It shows that the DRAM and NAND markets will likely recover more over the next 2 to 3 years because of the large demand for AI applications, AI memory chips, specifically HBM memory, and the upcoming AI PCs and AI smartphones that will need more memory content.
The PC market is in the early stages of a transformation, and we expect a significant shift towards AI-driven functionalities that promise to enhance user experiences and productivity. AI PCs require a higher capacity of memory and storage. As an example, leading PC OEMs have recently announced AI-enabled PCs with a minimum of 16 GB of DRAM for the value segment and between 32 to 64 GB for the mid and premium segments versus an average content across all PCs of around 12 GB last year. Smartphone unit volumes in calendar 2024 are on track to grow in the low to mid single-digit percentage range, and we expect unit growth to continue in 2025. Smartphone OEMs are seeking to differentiate their devices by incorporating more AI features such as personalized recommendations, improved camera functionalities, and smarter voice assistants. Recently, leading Android smartphone OEMs have announced AI-enabled smartphones with 12 to 16 GB of DRAM versus an average of 8 GB in flagship phones last year. Micron invested $8.1 billion in CapEx in fiscal 2024. We expect fiscal 2025 CapEx to be meaningfully higher and at around mid-30s% range of revenue based on our current CapEx and revenue expectations. The growth in both greenfield fab construction and HBM CapEx investments is projected to make up the overwhelming majority of the year-over-year CapEx increase. As a reminder, our investments in facility and construction in Idaho and New York will support our long-term demand outlook for DRAM and will not contribute to bit supply in fiscal 2025 and 2026. Micron will continue to exercise supply and CapEx discipline and focus on improving profitability, including walking away from less profitable business while still maintaining our overall bit market share for DRAM and NAND.
This is another important part that shows HBM's expected revenue in fiscal 2025. We delivered several $100 million of HBM revenue in fiscal 2024, and we look forward to delivering multi-billions of dollars of revenue of HBM in fiscal year 2025. All things considered, I think it's very reasonable to expect that Micron's revenue and profits will likely grow substantially in 2025 and grow more in 2026 because of the large demand for AI applications, AI memory chips, and the upcoming AI PCs and AI smartphones that will need a lot more memory and SSD content. Let's take a look at this consensus forecast from Skin Alpha so you will know Micron's expected growth rates over the next 2 to 3 years. Micron's revenue is expected to continue growing over the next 2 years. In 2025, Micron's revenue is expected to grow by around 52% year over year. In 2026, Micron's revenue is expected to grow by around 21% year over year. However, in 2027, Micron's revenue is expected to start decreasing again. This shows that Micron's current revenue growth should last for at least 2 more years, mostly because of the current AI boom. In terms of EPS forecast, Micron's EPS is expected to grow by over 500% year over year in 2025. In 2026, Micron's EPS is expected to grow by around 44% year over year. After that, in 2027, Micron's EPS is expected to start decreasing again. Of course, it's very hard to estimate Micron's revenue and EPS growth rates after 2 years. I want to show you this chart. Right now, I'm developing investing software with a friend. This chart is a preview. This chart shows Micron's fair value versus the stock price over time. This orange line represents Micron's estimated fair value over time. The blue line is Micron's stock price. The green line is the analyst's average price target over the next 12 months. This chart suggests that Micron is still slightly undervalued, even after it has recovered a lot recently. If this prediction is correct, I believe Micron should recover more over the next 12 months. Let me show you this intrinsic valuation model. I always use this intrinsic valuation model to calculate each stock's intrinsic value. You can use it to calculate Micron's intrinsic value, so you will know when Micron stock becomes undervalued, fairly valued, or overvalued. If you want this intrinsic valuation model, you can download it from my Patreon blog. The link is in the video description. These are the key assumptions in this calculator. First, I define Micron's intrinsic value as its future free cash flows discounted to the present day. I used a discount rate of 10.5% here. You can use a higher discount rate here if you want to be more conservative. Based on the biggest risk, the long-term growth prospects, and the consensus revenue forecast I talked about earlier, I believe Micron's revenue will grow by around 47.5% to 52.5% year over year in 2025. After that, I assume Micron's revenue will grow at a compound annual growth rate or CAGR between 7% and 10% each year over the next several years. Of course, it's very hard to predict Micron's revenue growth over 2 years, but I think these growth estimates are reasonable. I used a long-term growth rate of 7% to calculate the terminal value. If you want to be more conservative, you can use a lower long-term growth rate to calculate the terminal value. Over the next several years, I'm assuming Micron's free cash flow margin will continue to improve over time to around 13% by the end of 2029. Again, it's very hard to predict Micron's free cash flow margin because Micron's business is very cyclical. Let's go over these 3 case scenarios: worst case, normal case, and best case scenarios. Under the worst case scenario, we're forecasting that Micron's revenue will grow by around 47.5% in fiscal 2025. After that, we forecast that Micron's revenue will grow at a CAGR of 7% each year over the next several years. Then Micron's intrinsic value should be around $124 billion for the entire company, or $109 per share. I'm giving this scenario a 25% probability here. Under the base case scenario, we're forecasting that Micron's revenue will grow by around 50% in fiscal 2025. After that, we forecast that Micron's revenue will grow at a CAGR of 8.5% each year over the next several years. Then Micron's intrinsic value should be around $134 billion for the entire company, or $117 per share. I'm giving this scenario a 50% probability here. Under the best case scenario, we're forecasting that Micron's revenue will grow by around 52.5% in fiscal 2025. After that, we forecast that Micron's revenue will grow at a CAGR of 10% each year over the next several years. Then Micron's intrinsic value should be around $144 billion for the entire company, or $126 per share. I'm giving this scenario a 25% probability here. If we add all these numbers here, Micron's intrinsic value should be around $118 per share. I also use a forward sales valuation model to estimate Micron's intrinsic value, which should be around $138 billion for the entire company, or around $121 per share. If we take the average of both valuation models, I believe Micron's intrinsic value should be around $119 per share. In comparison, Morningstar has given Micron a slightly lower fair value of $110 per share. This means I believe Micron is either fairly valued or still slightly undervalued at the time making this video. Of course, the best time to buy Micron is when it's well below its intrinsic value, so there's a great margin of safety to reduce risk. So will I buy Micron stock? My answer is probably not, because Micron's business is too cyclical and too capital intensive, with very low margins compared to other top semiconductor companies. Micron does not have a very strong economic moat like NVDA, TSMC, ASML, and other mega cap tech companies. This is my prediction. I believe Micron's DRAM and NAND businesses will likely recover a lot more in 2025 and possibly in 2026 because of the large demand for AI applications, HBM3E and HBM4 memory. If I want to invest in Micron, I will only buy it when there's a large dip below its intrinsic value. Then I will likely sell it for a short-term gain when it becomes substantially overvalued again. This means Micron is not a buy and hold stock for me. Personally, I prefer to invest in NVIDIA and TSMC much more than Micron because NVIDIA and TSMC have the largest economic moats in the semiconductor industry. They are also much more profitable than Micron. Now, all these are only my opinions and my analysis that's based on my research. They are not financial advice. There are always risks associated with investing. It's very important to invest in what you know and not speculate. You will need to do your own research and do your extra due diligence first before investing in anything. Thank you for watching this video and supporting our channel. This is Victor from the Intelligent Investor channel, and I will see you in the next video.